Hi, it's Linda, and this is No Frills ASMR. This morning I went to a antique flea market, and I was looking for something to share with you guys, and I found this. I haven't taken it out of its packaging yet, but the guy who sold it to me said he put it together last night and that it's a puzzle and all the pieces are there. Now, I question the last night part, but I don't know, maybe. So, let's see what we have here. It is a Davy Crockett puzzle. And I didn't look at it super closely when I was buying it. I just kind of looked at it real quick, and then he started talking. And so I assumed that the image on the front here would be the Alamo, because Davy Crockett fought at the Alamo. But it's not. It says Siege of the Fort. So I believe that this fort is Fort Mims in Alabama, which was really, I think, more of a guy's house than an actual fort, but I'm not sure about that. So I thought we'd talk a little bit about Davy Crockett. We'll probably end up talking about this battle a little bit. I've looked up some things just so I have an idea of what I'm talking about. But I also have the Book of Cultural Literacy, so we can look up, a few things, see if there's anything in there. And I printed up, if you guys grew up, well, there was a Walt Disney TV show in the 1950s. I think it started in 1954. I think it was called like Davy Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier, or Davy Crockett Adventures or something. And I think the theme song, now this is before my time, I think the theme song to that TV show was this Ballad of Davy Crockett, which was written by Tennessee Ernie Ford, who happens to have a song that I absolutely love about sold my soul to the company store. What is that song's name? It's all about sold my soul to the company store, and I've wanted to do a video on company stores because of the song that Ernie Ford did. Anyway, that's aside. Back to the point. So Ernie Ford wrote this song, The Ballad of Davy Crockett, and I don't know if it's because, I was going to say because my parents are in Tennessee, but that would have been later. So no, just everybody as kids, we all sang this song. The first verse anyway, where it goes, born on a mountaintop in Tennessee, greenest state in the land of the free, raised in the woods so's he knows every tree, killed in a bar when he was only 3, Davy Crockett. So anyway, I'm not going to sing the whole song, don't worry. But it's kind of a fun song, and it tells his story, although I think he was known as a storyteller, but also, you know how over time stories become bigger and greater and stuff, and I think that's a little bit of what happened, because this song was written in 1950s, and he died at the Alamo in, what's that, 1836? Anyway, okay, so let's see. I have no idea if this puzzle is going to be big or small or difficult, or if the guy was being honest with me. I think he was. He seemed really nice, and I'm not sure why he'd tell me a story, because, guess how much I paid for this Davy Crockett puzzle from 1954. It says, Walt Disney's official Davy Crockett based on the Walt Disney production starring Fess Parker, never heard of him, as Davy Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier. And then it says jigsaw puzzle, large interlocking pieces, siege of the fort. Okay. So, let's see here. I know I didn't tell you what I paid for it. I'm letting you guess. All right. Let's see. This looks like a good puzzle. I love this size puzzle. I mean, for these purposes. I do one of the United States that's like this kind of shape. All right, let's find all the ends. Let's find all the end pieces. We'll put them over here. So I, did a little looking up of Davy Crockett. And the song, says he killed him a bear when he was only 3. I don't know if he did it when he was 3, but for sure he killed a lot of bear. He lived in Tennessee, and it was wild country back then. I mean, it still is, actually. And there are bear all over even now. But, and apparently he was a very good shot and did kill a lot of bear. I think at one point he maybe said he had killed, I forget, it was like 300 bear or something. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe, I don't know. Probably a lot of bear in that area. So yeah, he was born in 1780s. I think 1786. And I read he wrote an autobiography. So a lot of his stories, whether they were exaggerated or not, are, out there. And in his autobiography, he said that he, at school, had beat up a bully. Somebody he thought was a bully, I guess. And he was so worried about getting in trouble with the teacher that he stopped going to school. And then he was so worried about getting in trouble with his dad for not going to school that he ran away from home. And he traveled through Tennessee and Virginia. And then when he came home, he was like 16 years old. He came back home, and his family was all very happy to see him and relieved, which I'm sure. Can you imagine? Like, how old was he when he ran away? I think he said he was like 13 or something. Crazy. But anyway, so they were all happy to see him. And then at like 20 years old, he got married and had 3 kids. And then that wife, I think her name was Polly, she died young. And he did remarry later on. This is a top. All right, this is a corner. But then, as he got older, he joined the Tennessee militia. And one of the things that they were doing was fighting with the Creek Indians. And I'm stuck, hold on. I gotta concentrate on this puzzle. This goes over here. Okay. He apparently he went to Alabama to fight with the militia, and there in Alabama there were a lot of tensions rising between the Native Americans who were living there and the settlers. And the U.S. government was like, you got to tell the Native Americans who live there they either need to start doing agriculture or they need to head out west because we need the land to grow crops. And so they were doing that, and they were pushing the Native Americans off their land, or off the land, because as far as I know, Native Americans don't like consider ownership of land. They just looked at the land as, it's the land, it's shared by all of us. But that wasn't how the US government viewed it. And so they were trying to tell them, you gotta go. Or, and also, these puzzles are smaller than I thought, start farming the land. But what the Creek Indians, Native Americans who lived there, were doing, I'm going to use the term Indian because of, I'm not really, I don't want that. I hope that's not offensive. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, and so they, where was I going with that? What did I just say? Anyway, the Creek who lived there, and that's the name of the tribe, I think, is the Creek. They were hunting deer, and I mean a lot of deer. Like, the land was full of deer, and they would, use their skins to make things, their hides. Is that what you call it? Deer hide, I guess. And then sell them. So that was their economy, was based on the land being wild and hunting deer and not having fences to hold cattle in and stuff. So they didn't love the idea of being kicked off their land. And they started, and there were some of the Creek Indians who were actually working with the, U.S. Army and everything. They were working with them. But there was a bunch of them who were not. And I think they were known as the Red Sticks. And they're the ones who came in, and this is what we have pictured here. The reason I'm telling you this whole story is because this fort, I'm pretty sure, after researching it, is Fort Mims. And I think what happened was there were some military people here, militia, whatever. I don't know exactly. And then a lot of the townsfolk from the areas nearby, the settlers or whatever, they came over to this Mr. Mims farm house, and they were kind of hiding out here because they were getting attacked outside. But then one day, and Davy Crockett had come down with the militia to help protect this area. I think that's right. I think that's right. But the Red Stick Creek Indians, and they were kind of being led along by Tecumseh, who was a Shawnee, I think. So there were a couple of tribes working together. And they came in here and basically, they're calling it a siege. But there were a lot of women and children in the fort too, who they killed. So it was really a bloody, bloody battle. And because of this battle happening, I don't even know what you call it, battle, I guess, it led to the U.S. Army and Davy Crockett going after the Native Americans. And they had a giant massacre after this of Native Americans, where they killed so many Native Americans. So it's like a hard time, messy times, fighting on both sides. But let's just say a lot of women and children were killed on both sides. Let's put it that way. But later on in life, Davy Crockett, when the U.S. government said, that's it, we're going to move all the Native Americans off their land and out, Davy Crockett really turned on the battle that he had been involved in. And he was like, we really slaughtered people. And he felt bad about it. And he he didn't agree anymore with the government's idea of moving all the Native Americans off the land. He's like, it's not good. I don't want to do that. So he really fought against, I think, Andrew Jackson, who was president, on that subject. And he said, no, I don't want to do that. So even though he was involved in the massacre that happened, he also ended up fighting against it because he just didn't think it was right, is what my understanding is of that story. And I could be wrong, so please look it up. And there's a lot more to it, you know. I can't explain it all while doing a puzzle. But I think that's kind of it. So yeah, he ended up running for election into the House of Representatives, and he served under. I think he was in the militia under Andrew Jackson, but then also was a member of the House of Representatives under Andrew Jackson. And that's when he really started to disagree with him about the Indian Removal Act. And because of his, and by the way, Jackson and Davy Crockett were both of the same party. I think they were both Whig. And they were both, and Jackson said, we need to do the Indian Removal Act. And Davy Crockett said, I don't agree with that anymore. That's not good. Let's not do that. And so he lost that election. I mean, very narrow loss, though. But after that happened, because he had served like 2 terms and then he lost, he said, I'm going to Texas. And apparently there was some quote from him that said, you may all go to hell and I'll go to Texas. But so then he went down to Texas and ended up getting involved. And at that time, Texas was part of Mexico. But he started getting involved with the people who were fighting against Mexico to make it part of the United States. I don't know. That's a vague. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. I'd have to look all that up. And so he joined up and ended up fighting at the battle at the Alamo. And apparently for a while, he was there with just like, I don't know, a few. I'm going to have this number wrong. I don't know if it's 200 or 30. I can't remember. But he was with like just a small group. And they were fighting at the Alamo and just trying to hold off all the people who were trying to take over the Alamo. And even like the Texas commander, Sam Houston, had told Davy Crockett, like, just leave it. And that's what I read somewhere. I don't know all this for sure. I didn't really look into the Alamo. That's a different subject. But Davy Crockett's like, no, we're going to hold this. And so then the rest of the troops showed up and they had a big giant battle at the Alamo. And in the end, Davy Crockett was killed, but it's questionable whether he was killed during the battle or if they took him. Look, this one looks like a whale. Or if they took him hostage and killed him kind of after the fact. All right, there we go. And there we have it. But yeah, so he died at the Alamo. So let's look up and just see what does this say about the Alamo? Anything? He went off to Congress and served a spell, fixing up the government and laws as well. Took over Washington, so I hear tell, and patched up a crack in the Liberty Bell. See, these things are kind of well, I don't know. Maybe he did have. I think they're just tall tales. His land is the biggest. Huh. I don't see where they talk about the Alamo on here at all. When he lost his love, his grief was gall. In his heart, he wanted to leave it all and lose himself in the forest tall. But he answered instead his country's call. So that must have been when his first wife died, because she died young. His land is the biggest, his land is the best. From grassy plains to the mountain crest, he's ahead of us all and meeting the test, and a faller in his legend right into the west. Yeah, I don't see anything about the Alamo on here. Interesting. They have about the fighting with the, this might be old-fashioned. Fought single-handed through the Injun War till the creeks was whipped and the peace was in store. And while he was a handlin' this risky chore, made hisself a legend forevermore. Davy Crockett, the man who don't know fear. All right, let's look him up here. What do we think? Under Crockett, I assume. There it is, Davy Crockett, page 251. Oh, I gotta take a sip of water. Oops. I think I've had some allergies or something going on. I don't know. 251. Here it is. Crockett Davy. Look at this page. It's real crinkly. Like that. A frontier settler and political leader of the 19th century, Crockett was born in Tennessee and was killed at the Alamo by Mexican troops in 1836. Although he cultivated the image of a rough man of the bush, Crockett was politically ambitious and served in Congress. Crockett's trademark was a coonskin cap. Crockett served in the Army under Andrew Jackson. He opposed Jackson's policies, however, when Jackson was president and Crockett was in Congress. Yeah, that's about the, speaking of the coonskin cap, I looked around the antique flea market and couldn't find a coonskin cap, but I have this just from when, oops, hold on. I don't know, from the 1980s. And it's a leather coat with a fringe. And this, I think Davy Crockett was known to wear like a leather coat with fringe and a coonskin hat. So I pulled it out just to show you, but it's almost just too big to show. It's got these cool buttons. Oh, the fringe. I don't think the nice brown color is showing up on camera. Anyway, so that's that. Okay. I noticed this when I was flipping. The Alamo. A wash drawing the fight for the Alamo. A fort, by the way, I think it was when I was a kid, but maybe it was while I was an adult. I don't remember. But one time I went to the Alamo, and it's surprisingly like less than you might expect for all the talk about the Alamo. It's just a very, well, it's that right there, really. If it's even that. I'm trying to remember. I just don't remember it being much at all. A fort, once a chapel in San Antonio, Texas, where a group of Americans made a heroic stand against a much larger Mexican force in 1836. During the war for Texan independence from Mexico, The Mexicans, under General Santa Anna, besieged the Alamo and eventually killed all of the defenders, including Davy Crockett. Rally under the cry, "Remember the Alamo." Texans later forced the Mexicans to recognize the independent Republic of Texas. Remember the Alamo. Do you think they'd have that Fort Mims in here? This battle that our puzzle? Something tells me they won't. C, D, E, F. Fort Mims. No, I don't see it. Under Fort or Mims. What about Tecumseh? See, I feel like that's a name that comes up a lot. S-T. I think he was Shawnee leader. How do you spell T-E-C? There he is, 264. What do they say about him? A Shawnee chief of the late 18th and early 19th centuries, he took arms against American settlers moving into the Middle West and supported the British in the War of 1812, in which he was killed. Interesting. See, here you can see this was, what year are we in? They don't give like a year for this, but this is a map of the colonies and then the Indian country. So during this time of Davy Crockett, by the time he was, Tennessee was a state. I mean, there were more states, but they were moving into India and kept pushing the Indians, which led to the Trail of Tears with the Cherokees. It's that's sad. Okay. Well, I have to say, the guy told me all the pieces were here, and they sure are. So what do we have? We have the church, and it's on fire. And we have these guys with cannons shooting, but the creek are coming up over the ladders here. And this says Frontierland, which seems very Disney. Don't they have like Davy Crockett like area at some of the Disney worlds? I think they might. But when I drive to Tennessee, I think sometimes I drive past, I don't know if it's like, I guess it's where Davy Crockett was born. And you can go visit, but I've never done that. And I've never seen this TV show either. I'm sure you could probably find it on YouTube. But I have not seen it. So, the answer to how much did I pay is $3. He said $3. And I know like at flea markets, you're supposed to kind of like wheel and deal or something. But I was like, well, that seems fair. So, I totally paid him the $3 for it. Because I thought it was kind of neat, and because he told me he made sure it had all the pieces. So there we go. So I don't know, a little bit about Davy. But like I said, I'm definitely not an expert. I just, Googled it. So feel free to do a deep dive and learn more if you're interested. Or in the comments, if you have interesting information, feel free to share it. Should we count up how many pieces are here? They don't tell you on the box. Let's see. My guess is 50. number. I actually think 48. That's probably way too many. All right, here we go. Let's find out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 31. Oh, they have other puzzles you can get. Defending the fort, Indian attack, Davy Crockett, Indian fighter, and siege of the fort. So we have siege. I'm gonna have to go in search of